I just finished listening to the latest Joe Vitale book, Zero Limits Living, in which Joe combines spirituality with success-focused habits, integrating Ho'oponopono, law of attraction, and numerous other insights you won't necessarily find if you just practice one or the other. If you practice Ho'oponopono and find yourself somewhere other than where you'd like to be, or if law of attraction hasn't quite worked out, this book may show you why that's the case and help you make the changes you want happen. Joe's backstory is quite famous. At one point he was homeless, living more or less in a public library where he was able to absorb the knowledge he needed to get his life on course to where he is now. You could call this book Joe Vitale's greatest hits in that he assembled a way for us to use all of these techniques together, whether it's making life changes, achieving freedom, or wealth generation. Which brings me to an old familiar puzzle. Being a Ho'oponopono practitioner, my main goal is to always be getting to zero, rather than manifesting desires or wealth. And I was curious to see how Joe would balance these two ideas, this idea of being at zero and being free of desire versus this idea of manifesting the wealth or changes we desire to happen. This has always been a little bit of a conundrum which exists in the Ho'oponopono community. I was really interested to see how Joe would overcome this potential puzzle. Now, before we get to Joe's solution, we have to look at the three pillars that Joe structures the entirety of this book around. Pillar 1, mindset. Here Joe explores the creative power of mind, specifically processes of mind that can actually suppress our creative potential. One by one, he shows us how to hunt down mental obstacles, limitations, wrong perceptions, the walls that limit our potential as creative beings, eliminating these walls to empower and free the creative power we're all born with. These are some solid practical methods, which, if you haven't done this kind of mind work before, hold the potential to transform your life. Joe draws on the Stoic teachings and modern psychology to lay out a map of the mind, enabling us to navigate our own consciousness and to tweak and adjust our mindset to get free of the shackles holding us down. Central to these teachings are core beliefs, and speaking from experience, getting it right here is the largest boulder to move, because once you have self-empowering beliefs about yourself and the world, things become much easier. And Joe brings these lessons to life by sharing about his own sufferings prior to making these changes himself. The second pillar, motion. Motion is the action we take to propel the change we choose to experience. Here Joe tackles the practical elements underpinning success. Joe separates mechanical action from inspired action, and it's inspired action where true change awaits, opening doors and allowing those miracles, those unlikely connections and amazing transformations to take hold. Successful motion relies on correct mindset. Joe coaches us along this journey with techniques, solutions and brain hacks offered along the way. Again, his personal stories and the stories of others he knows brings this pillar to life, which allowed me to relate these concepts to my own creative journey. Some of the problems Joe troubleshoots are challenges that I'm working with now as a creator. So I've found this part of the book of practical help to my own goals, and I think other creators will find this part of the book really useful too. The third pillar is mysticism. The mystical pillar wraps around the first two, neatly integrating all three and forming a base from which we can become limitless beings. Joe teaches the spiritual keys to success. Some of these lessons may sound familiar, but Joe orients them towards supporting mindset and motion, which then become spiritual mindset and spiritual motion. Ho'oponopono plays a large part in this pillar, and it's here where we come face to face with that conundrum, desire versus clarity. And it's important to note that Zero Limits Living, whilst referring to and integrating with Ho'oponopono, has key differences with Ho'oponopono practice. Joe is a Ho'oponopono veteran. He learned directly from Ihaliakala himself and has obviously been able to find a good balance between being at zero and having all he desires. And I think I've learned greater clarity from Joe on the role of manifestation within zero. Joe provides an interesting quote from Marianne Williamson. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. You playing small does not serve the world. End quote. Zero, source, divinity, our true nature, is within all things, including wealth, poverty, and everything in between. They are merely aspects of the divine self-nature we choose to express. So we can exchange desires for self-knowledge of divinity, and through connecting with our expanded nature, simply create as a part of creation. We are creating every day anyway, and divinity has to take some form or another in our lives. So it's simply a creative choice. This is essentially where Zero Limits Living and Ho'oponopono part ways philosophically. To paraphrase Dr. Hugh Lin, I believe he said something like, "Divinity is not a delivery service." I don't have the exact quote. All I can say is that Ho'oponopono practitioners who get to zero will manifest from their highest perspective and most powerful potential. Seek first the kingdom of zero, and all this shall be added unto you. The desire conundrum can easily be solved at zero, and at zero, all limits drop away anyway, including the limits of our desires. After all, what in the world could feel better or be better than oneness with divine creation? Divinity is likely to express itself through how you think and feel, which brings us back to pillar 1, mindset, Joe wrapping the 3 pillars back together. Zero Limits Living offers a ton of bonus features at the end, more meditations, mindset coaching, and belief work. Just under 4 hours of content. Like I said, there's some great stuff for creators in there. So if you're a creator or looking to make creative change in your life, Zero Limits Living might be worth checking out. That's my book review. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you found that helpful, and perhaps I'll see you again.